Welcome back to another episode of Sky U Pod, brought to you by Big Banter. Hey guys, if you could, we are on YouTube now, and if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. I am joined by Max and Spencer today. We are previewing the 2:30 showdown this weekend here at home against Michigan State. Gophers are currently a 7-point favorite with it over under of 40 points. They took the rain slash snow out for now, and it's currently projected to be 34 degrees at kickoff. So, fellas, Twitter's still talking about Iowa. Um, for me, that's probably my biggest concern is that are the players able to flip the switch and get focused here on this Michigan State team? When you look at it, they've actually played these teams pretty tight. Not last week. No one's playing Michigan tight, so can't really fault them for that one. We saw what happened to us, but they're playing some of their opponents pretty tight here. So, what are your guys' thoughts leading into this one?
Yeah, I mean it's really got to be, it's a huge emotional win, but in college football, it's really a matter of how quickly can you kind of celebrate that win and then turn it over into the next week, especially when you have to play a team like Michigan State who struggled the way they have this year, both on and off the field. It's an easy one for these young kids to just look past and think we don't have to focus that much, but knowing PJ though too, he kind of focuses on every week is like its own season. So he's definitely going to be hammering home that they have to go 1-0 in the Michigan State season. As corny or as weird as that sounds, but I do trust the staff to keep them focused, and I trust the guys that we have that they're not going to be just out partying all week or just slacking off in meetings or at practice. I think they are going to, overall it is a pretty you know level-headed group. It feels like so. I trust they can get ready to play, and I ready for another win.
Yeah, I kind of think of this team like a Northwestern in the sense of they're kind of going through similar sort of things with their coaching staff and kind of like the change and everything. But I think the difference is that Michigan State, I think has better athletes, than Northwestern. So
Yeah,
I think that when you're a Michigan State team, no, you're not going to probably compete for, an East title, but I feel like every game is an opportunity, to improve and get better. And I think that in itself can get teams like this excited. Like a win is almost like their Super Bowl, given the circumstances of their own season. So, I
right.
look at Northwestern, they were able to come back and beat the Gophers, and that was awesome for all of them and their fans. And I can sense the same sort of thing with Michigan State. So it's not going to be a game where we can just walk in there, get a win, and walk out. Like this team has some solid players, and I think, like you said, Kurt, we can't be riding a high going into this game, and they got to be ready to go against this team.
Yeah, that is always a fear in college football. Just like you look at them based off their record, but Michigan State. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm assuming that they have higher recruiting classes than the Gophers have had over this past 3-4 years that Mel Tucker's been there. So definitely still got athletes. Yeah, it's an interesting. If you were to compare the two teams' philosophies, like Michigan State's coming off a blowout loss to their biggest rival for their fifth straight loss, and then we're coming off this high. It's just if they were coming off like a 14-7 ugly win against Nebraska or something like that, like I would put us on a much more greater chance for like upset alert. I know the spread's not that big, so people probably wouldn't be shocked if we lost this game, but I'd be much more worried if they were coming off of a game where they didn't probably get a little bit demoralized because some of their players were calling it like their season last week just because it's their biggest rival. Like you got to get up for it. A night game on national television and didn't go well. No fault there. Same thing happened to us. But all right, let's get into Michigan State offense a little bit. So they started the year with a guy that I thought was doing all right. Noah Kim was their starter for the first few games, but the last two they've gone with the redshirt freshman. And now I don't have his name in front of me. Hauser. Uh, So he's kind of like the future, it sounds like, and this interim head coach is just riding him out and just letting him kind of take the reins of this offense. So he looked like a player against Rutgers. I know he had a couple turnovers, but he made some plays with his legs. They have some guys out there at receiver, but what stands out to you guys the most about the Spartan offense that the Gophers are going to see?
For me, it's the running back Nate Carter, just because he's kind of their bell cow. He's got 130 carries on the year. The next closest rusher was Noah Kim, the quarterback, who's no longer the starter. He only had 27 carries. Um, he's low to the ground. He's only 5'9", but I think he's close to 200 pounds. So he's kind of a little bowling ball. So he's definitely a guy to watch out for. Just with they're going to try to establish the run, new quarterback. That's what I would expect. And then from the wide receivers too, it seems that they have a pretty good variety of targets that don't really have like a top guy, especially with Keon Coleman leaving. I'm sure they're trying to find their next top target. So it seems like they spread the ball around a lot. We'll see how this new younger quarterback looks, but the thing that jumps out to me, is just Nate Carter. We got to be able to tackle that guy because he looks like a little just bowling ball coming
Right.
field.
Yeah, as to round that off, Max. I think that like you said, they have great receivers. I'm kind of looking at that, you know, um, graduate senior who Trey Mosley. He looks pretty good. I mean, he's tied in the team with on the team with receptions. He only has a pair of touchdown receptions, but I mean, um, he's a big, kind of athletic, mature individual, and I think that they're going to look to him. Obviously, our secondary has, maybe not last week, but this season there's been some holes, it seems. So I think they'll definitely try to expose those holes with their athletes. They're definitely capable of doing that. And then obviously, like you said, Max, running back, it looks really good as well. Um, It'll be interesting to see up front. I'm not so sure how Michigan State is up front, but I think that if the Gophers can disrupt that, it'll put us in a good position to hopefully keep them from getting in the end zone.
Yeah, you guys did a good job. The only thing I really had to add that stuck out was it seems like you guys mentioned they spread the ball out passing. They're not like let's see, they're not a super heavy pass team, but they averaged about 80 more yards passing, a little over 200 yards a game than the Gophers. So just looking through their team here, they do have multiple guys with like chunk plays, which I feel like the Gophers really only have Daniel Jackson and maybe Corey Crooms that have had some longer catches on the year. Michigan State, they got Foster Jr.'s got to catch a 30 yards, leading receiver. Trey Mosley's catch a 26. Their third receiver 33, fourth receiver has a 72 yarder, another guy with a 45 yarder. So they still got dudes out there. It just makes you have to pay attention to everybody in this game, right? Like when there's the one star player, not one star player, like most teams have more than one, but when there's that one shutdown guy, usually stick Wally on him and just kind of have safety help over the top. They seem to have enough guys to make you have to just kind of play them straight up, if that makes sense. So just something to watch there with the secondary and just the pass coverage of the linebackers, which has been a little bit suspect. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. I was kind of liking that earlier weather report. It was looking like we're going to have for the Gophers, which is be like some rain and whatnot, but that's currently not in the forecast. So that might make things a little bit more interesting in this one. All right, and moving over to their defensive side of the football, I'll let you guys start this time. Maybe Shuddy, if you wanted to go with this one, what stands out to you about their defense?
I think it's their linebackers. I think that back there they have some pretty good players. 6-year graduate senior Aaron Brule. He had 11 tackles last game. So that's pretty impressive. And then you're looking at another freshman linebacker, Jordan Hall, who um, has also gotten 7 tackles against Rutgers. So young guy who is obviously looks like he can play really well. Um, seems like their defensive backs are athletic too. I'm not so sure. It's kind of hard to really compare, given like last week against Michigan, they kind of just did whatever they wanted against the defense. But
Right.
again, I just think that they have good players in different spots throughout their defense. Um, One thing that again that will be interesting to see is their front. It seems like in the past, Michigan State has been able to do well up front, but I'm not so
Yeah.
sure about this season. Um, so yeah, I think if the blockers can get to that second level against those backers, kind of seal them in, I think our running game will do just fine.
Yeah, for me overall, just Michigan State's team defense. Their offense is probably one of the worst offenses in the country, at least on paper. So it definitely doesn't help their defense and some of their numbers. But just looking at run versus pass, they're definitely a lot better in the run defensive game. Only giving up 3.6 yards per carry, but they're giving up 8 yards per pass, and they face a pretty even 50-50 split run versus pass. So it's not even like it's skewed between you know teams are barely passing on them, but when they do, they hit big chunk plays. So I don't know. It seems like the teams that have had success are obviously the ones that can make some explosive plays. One of the stats that is like points per play. Michigan State's 102nd in the country, giving up .446. That's almost half a point every single play they're giving up. So really for the Gophers, and it hasn't, we haven't been successful in it, but if we can hit some explosive plays, it seems like that's been Michigan State's biggest weakness like this, so far this year. And that Michigan game last week doesn't help, but
Yeah. Yeah. No, it'd be great. Be a great game for Ethan to have a little bit of a bounce back overall. Like we said, he made some plays down the stretch last week, but overall, just want him to hit a little bit more of those easy ones that were there for the taking, especially if Spartan defense has been somewhat decent against the run this year. I just saw this today, so I just thought I'd bring it up on the pod. They have had a couple players here jump into the portal.
Yeah,
It's kind of getting to that point for them where they can jump in and transfer and not be penalized for it. I think so. I know this guy was a starter. Simeon Barrow, defensive tackle for them. He was pretty good. He's had a decent amount of pressures on the year. So he had jumped in the portal. I'll be honest, I don't know if this offensive lineman was a starter, but Keyshawn Blackstock is also now in the portal. So, um, yeah, he was a junior offensive lineman. So it sounds like he had at least some experience for them. So that's something to keep an eye on. Basically, if we're looking at this from the Gopher side, I just think you're going in with some banged up running backs, right? Like Zach Evans was in a walking boot by the end of the Iowa game. Gonna assume he's out this week. PJ said they did receive good news about both him and Darius Taylor from the medical staff. So probably not season ending or anything like that. But I'm just gonna assume, if you're in a boot that quick after the game, you're probably not back in a week. It'd be great if he was, but not counting on him. But so a banged up Darius Taylor, I'm assuming will play. As we mentioned, Bryce Williams is out for the year, so you'll have Sean Tyler in there getting a lot of carries, probably as well as Newman in there, right, as your third back. So, in order to help those guys out, it would be great to hit Daniel Jackson, Corey Crooms, Elijah Spencer, just maybe span forward. Maybe this is his final game where he gets some confidence going and can hold onto that football when he's targeted. But it's a team. It's just a dangerous team because yes, they're down on themselves, the Spartans, that is, and they're in a difficult spot. But they just have the athletes out there where if they show up to play, like you're instantly in a dogfight. So, yeah, you're gonna need to have a good game plan going into this, and just I want to see a little bit more of a 50-50 mix. Maybe not quite as run heavy as we were against Iowa, but we'll see.
I agree. I think it's a good opportunity, like weather permitting, right? We'll see kind of how it plays out on Saturday, but I hope PJ, this is unfortunately kind of what happens usually if you run your backs, you know, all the time. I mean, you're going to get banged up and hurt.
Yeah,
Um, but, I just think it's a good opportunity to see what Ethan can do and sling the ball. You have athletes. It's against a team that's really still trying to figure it out more than halfway through the season. Why not just kind of give them the keys and try and, roll this offense and see what we got here? So I agree completely, Kurt. I hope they kind of expand the playbook. Doesn't even have to be anything crazy. Just let's see, like we
Right.
kind of talked about it before, the podcast. Let's see some like 4, 5, 6 yard kind of pass plays. Let's kind of just see us kind of driving up the field, chunking, and getting
Yeah.
in the end zone. Um, we'll see what happens, but I think it's a good opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And two, if we're letting Nathan throw the ball around, hopefully that means we're the running backs that we do have healthy. We're not just gonna bash them and risk any more injuries for the remainder of the year too. So
Yeah.
it definitely feels like a game that we're just gonna try to sit on the ball.
Yeah.
That play clock's gonna be under 4 or 5 seconds probably every offensive snap we have, just to bleed as much clock as possible. And I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the game plan looks like. I agree though. I hope we let Ethan throw it around, and I hope we just spread around to some other receivers too. I think Daniel Jackson was the only wide receiver that had a catch against Iowa, so it's tough to be a wide receiver and not get your hands on a single ball. Though Corey Cruz
Right.
should have had a catch. That was terrible.
Yeah, that was ridiculous, but
Yeah. I do.
oh
I will
well.
say this: if the game plan is, I don't know. We saw what happened last year against the Spartans. If we can kind of bring that same sort of energy and plan, obviously the Spartan team's different, but
Right.
if we can do something like that, that would be phenomenal. Just to see a dominant win, something that would be unexpected, even against the Spartan team, who we're not really expecting a lot of, but to see a dominant win would really make me feel good about the Gophers going forward in the rest of the season.
Yeah, I completely agree. With that being said, just my couple keys to the game here for the Ghosts to come out on top would just be, the D line played excellent against Iowa. I feel like that's getting a little bit overlooked nationally just because of Iowa's offensive struggles, but the D line really did take over. So just have that kind of continue. I know it's a lot asking him to be as dominant as they just were, but keeping the quarterback contained, he has made some plays with his legs. And just if you can kind of shut down the run again and put more on his plate, being a young quarterback on the road probably helps you a little bit, especially maybe if the weather's not great. So yeah, it's D line, I guess. Keep balling out, and then yeah, I mean it leaves opportunities for your playmakers in the secondaries. We saw Wally and Newbin were making plays, so that would be my defensive key to the game, as well as just staying in your lanes. Like linebackers, just continue as you were doing. They were much better. I should give them praise since I've been harsh on them. They were much better at staying disciplined last game. So obviously, if that can continue, I like the odds. And then, I do think this is going to be pretty close for most of the game. So I think Ethan is going to have open receivers down the field again. We're going to have to hit more of those shots if we're going to win this football game. You know, uh, Derek Burns commented on it. He's on um, the Go for Gridiron podcast, breaking down games every week. But he commented on his Twitter feed just that, against Iowa, this was maybe the best game the receivers actually had as far as getting open and getting separation from DBs and stuff. So when those opportunities are here against this Spartan team, we're going to probably need to hit those just because their offense is a little bit more talented than that Iowa's. So yeah, with that, like I said, I think it's going to be pretty tight just because I don't know how we're going to turn around exactly off the big win and whatnot. And, Spartans have players still, but I think they are kind of down in the dumps right now. So I have the Gophers winning 20-16, which is a Spartan cover and an under.
Yeah, I feel like coming in. I don't know. I feel like I was also feeling like it'd be a closer game. But just kind of watching how Michigan State played against Michigan, like you said, like last week was kind of for a lot of those guys probably their whole season. That's kind of all you got left is your biggest rivalry. Hoping to put up a fight against your in-state. Michigan has kind of been Big Brother for a while now, so you would hope they'd put up a little bit of a fight, but they just got dominated even all the way to the end. So I don't know. I feel like it's a little demoralizing, trusting that this Minnesota team can bounce back from the emotions of the Iowa game, reset, refocus, and just play to their strength. Um, but one thing that stands out, Michigan State, even though their offense is pretty bad, they're also, of the 133 FBS schools, they are 128th in turnover margin and 130th in penalties. So definitely a team that's going to make mistakes and going to shoot themselves in the foot. So if we can just let them make all the mistakes and we can just take the ball away and sit on it, as long as we don't play down to their level and win that time of possession battle, I don't think it's going to take too many points. Our offense is essentially perfect, but they can just play mistake-free football, trust in the defense. I'm predicting a 24-6 win.
Nice.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, Max, you kind of said some of the things I was going to say. You look at last week against Iowa, Gophers had several penalties. Was it 6, 7 penalties? Really uncharacteristic of the Gopher football team. Keep those penalties limited and let them, the Spartans, kind of shoot themselves in the foot. But also, turnovers or good field position. Let's get in the end zone. How about? Let's really take advantage of when we get the ball back in a turnover. Let's get 6 points. Too often last game we didn't get in there. Credit to Iowa's D. We all know how good they are, but against this team, you should be able to get in the end zone. Um, defensively, like you said, Kurt, I want to see that D line just keeping that energy, going. I mean, we saw how awesome they played last game. If they can just keep going like this, it'll be awesome for this defense, especially against a young quarterback. Let's make him make plays, and that in itself will force some turnovers. So do that, score early. I think when first drive, maybe let's find the end zone to make them kind of crawl back at us. That being said, if the defense plays like they did last week and the offense shows improvements, I got the Gophers winning 27-10.
Are we all under?
I think so.
Yeah, probably a safe bet there. Yeah, no, that's a good point, Spencer. Especially if you could get up on these guys and just, they're on a 5-game losing streak. So if you could get up by like 10, if it's 10-0 after quarter one, they might kind of just be like, you know what, I'm
Another
kind of
week.
old.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Like, but I don't know what team we're gonna get really that we're gonna see from them on Saturday. Like they should have beat Iowa. They really should have. But they gave up that punt return, and Iowa kind of Iowa'd them. Uh, they had Rutgers on the ropes, couldn't finish that one, and then last week ran into Michigan, which is just an absolute buzzsaw right now. But all right, we are now moving on to. Well, I should say this really quick. I just want to say we were trying to get a crossover with the Bacon Wire podcast, which is Big Banter's Michigan State football podcast. Their host was ill, so he could not meet us to record at this time. But if something pops up, we'll try and get that out, and we will post it on the feed as well. But just so you know, we tried to get the Michigan State expert analysis. So we did our best to fill in for him. But anyway, we'll move in to the Sky U Pod parlay of the week. It was close last week, fellas. 3-1. 3-1. This week, Max, you had mentioned this to us. It looks a little bit tougher to find a lock. But with that, I will let you guys start. What are your locks for the Sky U Pod parlay of the week?
I'm going to kind of start in hot here, okay, fellas?
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you heard, we went 3-1, and it is because of me. I totally botched it. And so I want to redeem myself in this parlay and for you all to have faith in us. So when you spend your money, you make money. I'm doing one of these early games. In fact, I'm looking tomorrow. I got burned in the over under with Northwestern and Nebraska. I said they'd go over. That was not the case. So I want to go over again. I'm looking at UTEP and Sam Houston. Over under is 36 points. These are not good teams. But hey, I think that they're just going to be coming ready to play on a Wednesday night. You know, this is their Super Bowl. This is something to get up for. They have an opportunity to get some wins. Let's get it done. Over 36 points. Sam Houston and UTEP.
You're usually pretty good with these early games, so I'm not even going to question it. All right, Max, what is your lock of the week?
For me, I'm going to stay away from Conference USA and these weeknight games, though they are fun to watch. I'm looking at Oklahoma goes to Kansas. Oklahoma's a 10-point favorite, and I like the Sooners a lot. I know they had a weird game against UCF, but Kansas without Jalen Daniels, I know their backup's been playing all right, but I don't know. Oklahoma's just on a mission. I think Dylan Gabriel's still, he's been mentioned for the and Heisman watch ever since the Texas game. Uh, I think Oklahoma's explosive offense and actually having a decent defense this year. 10 points doesn't seem like enough there, so Boomer Sooner.
Yeah. Okay, I'm stuck between these two. I'm gonna go with this one. I don't think you guys will like it, but here's my rationale. Virginia just shocked the world and beat UNC on the road. They now travel to the Hurricanes, who I thought they might kind of roll over, and they played a tough physical game and got the W against Clemson. I think this Virginia team is going to have a tough time recovering from that huge upset. Canes are a 19-point favorite at home. I'm going to go with the Canes. I think they kind of come out and pound this Virginia team, which is very young. And I think the Canes are still trying to send a message this season that they're better. They do have some nice wins on the year. I think they are a talented enough team to do that. I think Virginia. I don't know how UNC lost to them. I've seen a lot of Virginia football actually this year, early in this season. It seemed like they were on every Friday night. So I'm going to stick with the Hurricanes getting the job done at home.
Yeah, I like that pick.
All right. Now we are moving on to another great slate this Saturday. I feel like the Pac-12 just has a great matchup for us, really every week. But we will start with let's start with this Big Ten one. I just think it's an interesting line. Maryland is at Northwestern. Maryland is currently a 13.5-point favorite. Fellas, who you like in that spread?
Uh,
I'll go first. Then I'm going to take Maryland just because they're off the bye, and that was a pretty physical game, tough game for Northwestern. Like they hung pretty tight for the most part with Nebraska. Um, So not that they'll have a tough time responding. It's just I feel like Maryland is ready for them and not going to take them lightly, especially since their last game was that kind of upset loss to Illinois. So I think Maryland bounces back and does cover that spread. I would not put money on this game, but I'm going to take Maryland.
Where is this, at Maryland or at Northwestern?
At Northwestern.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Got the Wildcats.
I'm
No.
gonna go with Northwestern. I'll just go for it.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
I just like that line. It's like the perfect one of I don't want to bet this. To me at least, but I'm sure somebody out there is having their fun with that. All right. Um, Max, do you have any rationale or are you just going Wildcats?
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think Northwestern, just as bad as they are, they just don't seem to give up. So
Yeah,
maybe a backdoor.
sure.
Evanston, late,
Yeah,
dreary.
Yeah. All right. Well, we also got Georgia, Florida going on at the same time as the Gophers in Jacksonville. Georgia is a 14.5-point favorite over the Gators. Man,
I think I'm going to go Bulldogs.
I'm too. I don't
This
trust Florida's
Florida
offense.
just isn't, you know, I thought that this year they might kind of turn around, but like I haven't really seen a lot from them this year again. And this Georgia team, guys, you know, they're just really good. Um,
Yeah.
they do lose their big tight end, um, which
Yeah.
that'll hurt, but I still think they get this done.
Something tells me they have a backup that's pretty good.
Probably.
Yeah.
It is a rivalry, like a big rivalry. So I
That's the
don't know.
thing. Florida. I mean, anyone playing Georgia is going to get up for it, and I feel like the Swamp is a tough place to play. Like even if you're Georgia, so
Well, I don't think it's in the Swamp though, right? Jacksonville's a
The
neutral site.
Jacksonville,
This
right?
game's always a neutral site game, I believe. Which is kind of weird because you would think you'd want that on campus, but I know there's a backstory. I don't remember it, but for some reason they always play in Jacksonville, which is like the semi halfway point between the two. But
well, with that, I will take Georgia.
okay, all right. The next one here we got BYU at Texas. Texas is a 17.5 point favorite. Quinn Ewers is out for a few weeks here. He sprained his shoulder taking a hit in that close game against Houston last week. BYU got smoked on the road against TCU, and that's the only thing that stands out in my head. So I don't know if BYU can do it on the road.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stick with Texas. I know that's a lot of points for a backup quarterback, but they got athletes on that team for sure. So I'll go Texas minus 17.5 against BYU.
Who's going to start? It's not Arch.
Nope. Well, I don't think so. He could play, but I forget the backup. It's not Arch though. Arch didn't
Yeah.
fill in for the guy that came in relief. I
Yeah.
don't remember his name, but
I think you're right, though, Kurt. I'm going to go with Texas. Texas, I don't want to say they're back yet, but they're looking pretty good.
yeah.
So,
Well, and plus with the backup quarterback, I feel like that almost makes it like they're not going to overlook BYU. So
yeah.
like they're going to do everything they can to be ready to help the next guy.
Hmm.
His job easier. So I'm going to stick with Texas.
Yeah, and yeah, it doesn't matter who plays quarterback. Texas defense has still been really good this year. So yeah, I'll take the Longhorns as well.
This 2:30 slot is absolutely stacked with games. So we'll stick with it here. Oregon at Utah, Salt Lake City. Man, Oregon is a 6.5 point favorite. I don't know. I don't know who I like this one. Utah looked good. They're coming off a big win. Oregon, I thought would kind of. I mean, they still won pretty easily, but I just thought it'd be more. But
Right.
again, Washington State's also still a solid squad, I think. So I don't know.
I
Um,
think I'm going to go with the Ducks. Um, here's why.
yeah,
Their defense is better than USC's.
right.
Maybe their offense isn't as potent, but I think that
I think
is
it's
the
pretty
diff.
good.
It's pretty.
Yeah,
No, yeah, absolutely. It's arguably the same. It could be better, but I just think that the defense is the difference between the Ducks and the
I got you.
Trojans, and I think that is going to be the reason why they cover the spread.
I got you. I'm gonna go Utah. I don't know if they'll win, but they're at home, so I'm gonna take the points. They're just super well coached. I don't know. It's just almost a touchdown at home. I think I'll just take them at as the home team, and that's really the only rationale I got. If one team's gonna blow out the other, though, I do feel like it's Oregon. Like I still think they're legit, even in that loss to Washington. Like I came away thinking, wow, Oregon is actually really good still. But um, so kind of a cop out answer, but I'm gonna take Utah at home with the points.
Yeah, this man. I feel like overall, if it was all things being the same, Oregon is both sides of the ball is a better team. Uh, but there's just always been something about Utah playing Oregon, especially at home. They just
They
don't.
just got that magic with them too. It
Right.
seems like I don't know.
I feel like the biggest thing for Oregon is that it's at least not at night because Utah home at night just
Yeah,
is like voodoo powers. I don't know what they got going on there, but they never lose.
right.
Um, I'll take Oregon. I think this is the year they get the monkey off their back. They finally go in there and beat them, cover. Don't love it.
Just don't
Yeah,
drop the ball before you cross the end line.
right.
Yeah.
No, that should be a great game. Looking forward to watching that one. All right, let's close it off here with this one. Ohio State traveling to Madison, Wisconsin. Man, Wisconsin coming off a big time victory, close one against Illinois, and then obviously Ohio State handling Penn State at home. That was a big time matchup. I don't think Ohio State's going to be overlooking Wisconsin at all, and the offense I just don't think we'll do enough for the Badgers in this one to cover that spread. I believe in Ohio State's defense. Yeah, I'm gonna take Ohio State like a 40 to, yeah, probably not 40, like a 31 to 13 type game.
I'm gonna have to agree. Reasons you said, but also just the Gopher in me. We need Wisconsin to lose this game,
Yeah, we
so I'm
do.
just I'm just going all in with the Buckeyes here.
Yeah. I take Ohio State as well. Another big win against Penn State, but I don't know. They seem to take care of business pretty easily. That defense looked really good too for Ohio State.
Yeah,
Kind of got the weapons on both sides of the ball, and Wisconsin just kind of scuffling. So
right. All right. Well, that'll be another episode of Sky U Pod. Like I said, we are on YouTube now, so feel free to look us up, like and subscribe, comment if you will, and yeah, we look forward to talking to you next week. We are brought to you by Big Banner Sports. We'll see you next time. Go go.